Yes. Let me set the scene. It's 2016, Luton, Bedfordshire. And in a small little house that was advertised as a 3-bed, it was really a 2-bed. Sat a little boy with either a really short afro or no hair at all. He sat in the front furthest most bedroom in the top floor. As he was bored, as all teenagers are. Well, he's not even a teenager yet. As all kids his age are. And before him was a touchscreen Lenovo laptop. He was bored, he had run out of shows to watch. So in his boredom, he had picked up a random video he saw while scrolling through the recommended page on YouTube. Top 20 couples in anime, you know? But damn, it took me long enough. And in that video, there was a lot of anime material there. There was Haru no Right? Haru no Right? Is that the name of it? Whatever, it doesn't matter, it was trash. There was Beyond the Boundary. There was Plastic Memories, a show I have yet to watch. But the most important of them all was Chuunibyou. The couple in mention was Rika Takanashi and Yuta Togashi. I didn't know that day. I didn't know that day or the days to come or even the year later that no matter how obsessed I was with my past, I wouldn't be as obsessed about it as I was this show. It was beautiful to me. Nothing more perfect. It was romance, enjoyment, pure entertainment. In that bedroom right there, scattered Pokemon cards all over the floor, my brother escaping to my sister's room next door. I sat alone with my touchscreen Lenovo laptop, watching that show, rewatching that show. I absolutely adored it. Beautiful.
Chuunibyou Season 1 is a complete story. The story of Rika Takanashi, and a character study on someone who needs to deal with grief. Everything about Chuunibyou is delicately crafted to tell this story, from the structure to the unrelated episodes. Like the girls' rating notebook. Most importantly, the specific POV. But beyond the story, but to a much simpler degree, the entertainment factor applies as well. To make a perfect anime, you need both a perfect story and an entertaining one. Though it's much harder to analyse entertainment, since it's totally personal opinion and not objective. Story, however, is objective, and Chuunibyou is a fantastic piece of writing. As I said, the writing team had put so much effort and love into every aspect of this story to have no wasted scenes. There's a part of writing that's honestly the hardest part of the art, and that's making everything relevant. Chuunibyou takes it one step further, and even if it's just for a moment, it makes everyone relevant. Characters with no name be damned. For a moment, even they get their part in the spotlight. And then there's the structure. The order that the plot developments happen is just as important as the developments themselves. And Chuunibyou has excellent use of structure, but by far the best thing that Chuunibyou makes use of is the characters. If they have a role beyond 1 or 2 scenes, then they are used spectacularly. Characters are the base of any good story. Same goes for Chuunibyou. To analyse characters and to point out their impact on a story, you need to identify a hierarchy or in layman's terms, figure out whether they are a main character or not. And that's quite simple. Yuta Togashi and Rika Takanashi are the main characters. One is the POV and one is the focus. When it comes to the side characters, there is also a need to categorize them, because there's a difference between Sanai, Dekamori and Toko and the rest. This has narrowed down the characters that we need to address separately, because they don't mean much when they're isolated. To repeat, the characters that we are talking about today are Rika Takanashi, Yuta Togashi, Toka Takanashi, and Sanai Dekamori.
Oof. Fuck me, man. Dreamy. The tradition? Oh, yeah. The tradition of watching Chuunibyou comes from a year later. A year and a couple more rewatches later. I was chilling with family. This is actually what happened. I was chilling with family. Obviously, it was New Year's Eve. And obviously we did all the New Year's stuff, did the countdown, we chilled, maybe some champagne. You know, everyone lets themselves have a drop of champagne, you know. But this year I was very bored. We'd done all of that. It was like 1:30 in the morning. I had run out of stuff to watch. I was bored. And in my mind, right then, I just watched Chuunibyou. You know? Chuunibyou. I was like, let me watch my favourite show. It was my favourite show back then too. I got through the first season pretty fine. Started the second season, got tired, went to bed. And came back and rewatched it all. At some point my sister walked into me because it wasn't in my bedroom, because I wasn't allowed my Raspberry Pi in my bedroom, reasons. And yeah, it was on a little Raspberry Pi. No, not the Lenovo laptop. My brother had taken the Lenovo laptop into his room, the cursed bastard, to forever change that trajectory of the Lenovo laptop's life. I had a little Raspberry Pi for my birthday. I think I threw it away. A little Raspberry Pi I'd watch YouTube on in the presence of my family. And during that, my sister walked in and goes, have you gone to bed yet? And I was like, no. So I watched season 2 and came up. During some point during that watch, I was like, this could become a tradition. This could become something I do every year. Whether or not I had planned to, truly, at that year, the next year came and I did the exact same thing. Even to the tradition of, you know, stopping halfway through and not watching it all in one go.
Love, Chuunibyou and Other Delusions is the story of Rika Takanashi. The title is exactly her story of love and Chuunibyou and any other delusions that come their way. Her Chuunibyou is not the regular Chuunibyou of the mundanes. Her Chuunibyou is the result of a down-spiraling mind that witnessed a kid enjoying his life to the fullest. It is a coping mechanism for the death of her father, and it's her way of expressing emotions. So what are the details of her Chuunibyou? Her Chuunibyou works exactly the same way someone pretending to have powers would do. It is based off and surrounded by anything she finds cool or interesting. The constant references, from Ava and Gundam to Taxi Driver, are a show at this. But most importantly, she is the strongest. Well, her habit of talking about it in the third person should be pointed out. The eye of the wicked lord is the strongest. Because she has no faith in her own strength anymore. And the entire goal for her journey is the invisible boundary lines. Something she is supposed to be looking for that she only actively looks for once in the entire story. And in fact, already knows where it is. It is on the shores on the way between her grandparents' house and her dad's house. And this is what makes her Chuunibyou so oxymoronic. She has escaped reality to get over her father's death, yet surrounds that false reality with her father's essence. This shows that Rika herself wanted to deal with his death healthily, but the fact is that Chuunibyou wasn't going to solve it. This unhealthy situation makes the people in her life take the opinions they do, and putting them in a problematic situation of, if they do pick a side, they lose out. Her Chuunibyou being an expression of her emotions is a healthy thing for a person who struggled to do that for a while. But the oxymoronic nature of its role as a coping mechanism is very much not a healthy thing. So if someone says it's healthy for her to be a Chuuni, they aren't wrong, but they definitely aren't right. Her own relationship with Chuunibyou is that she definitely doesn't not want to be a Chuunibyou. She finds it fun. However, she doesn't need to be a Chuuni to display a lot of the behaviour she does, and when she finds herself without Chuunibyou, forced out of her shell, she doesn't know what's right and wrong anymore, which is the whole point. It's supposed to show you that she doesn't need to be a Chuuni to enjoy the things she does, but that she doesn't know that. She doesn't need to be a Chuunibyou to act the way she did. She doesn't need it to dress in fire Lolita dresses, to nerd out about games and random mythological facts with Dekamori, to collect all those weird dolls she does, or to draw random manga. But she doesn't know that. She didn't know how to express herself before Chuunibyou came along, and therefore attributes all that development and healing she did after coming across Yuta to Chuunibyou. Which is a shame because she was very good at the art of conversation. She managed to work off the straight man that was Yuta consistently, whether or not it was in character of her Chuuni persona. To be fair, her belief in this was born from Toka more than anything else. She instilled a thought that everything Rika did was a bad thing, that it was running away from her problems. But in reality, she hadn't ran away, she was just looking away. She didn't have the support network to deal with the death of her father, and Chuunibyou alone wasn't going to solve it. Dekamori is Rika's best friend. Someone that met and bonded with Rika through Chuunibyou. Their entire interaction together is based in Chuunibyou and stuff they find cool. And much like Rika, Deko's Chuunibyou isn't normal. Yet she still doesn't believe her fantasies are real. She is using Chuunibyou as pure entertainment. She finds everything that is related to Chuunibyou incredibly fun, and that's the entire reason she acts the way she does. And she is a Hall of Famer shit stirrer, okay? Hall of Fame shit stirrer. She knows how to get under someone's skin in just the right way to get an entertaining reaction out of them. That's why she likes Nibatani so much. But her importance to Rika is that she is the representation of Rika's Chuunibyou. Like, no, I'm not insane anymore, but just hear me out. She knows everything about Rika, down to her emotional state, and most of all, she couldn't help Rika alone. I mean, that's not enough to prove my point. Dekamori is consistently there to tempt Rika to return to Chuunibyou, like Rika's own thoughts. Dekamori is always there to enable Rika's delusions, despite knowing everything about her and knowing better herself. And Deko believes that Rika needs the Dark Flame Master to solve her issues. It wasn't Rika needs you. It was the Wicked Lord needs the Dark Flame Master. For Chuunibyou itself, it would believe that the Chuunibyou is the way to solve Rika's complexes, because it's how she had healed so far. You may believe this is all hinging on Chuunibyou being sentient and alive, which would be a delusion within itself. That's why it isn't. It's the personification of Chuunibyou. Dekamori is the personification of what Rika believes through Chuunibyou. Not saying that's all she is. She's her own character, with her own motivations and reasons for acting the way she does. But the way she mirrors what Rika's Chuunibyou would want, or what Rika wants through her Chuunibyou, it is far too much to be a coincidence. It shows why Rika has suffered for so long. And probably the most tragic part of their relationship is that when Deko let go of her Chuunibyou, became the normal person she didn't want to become because it was boring, She kept all of her quirks she had when she was a Chuuni. She was still a first team all shit stirrer. It showed that Rika was completely broken, that she would lose most of her personality because she genuinely didn't know how to act without it. And Dekamori losing her Chuunibyou meant that, in Rika's mind, she had given up on Chuunibyou for good, seeing as her boyfriend had given up on it too. Rika's support network was so small because she no longer trusted her mother. We know how she felt when this was fresh on her mind. Angry and betrayed. However, it's difficult to know how she feels right now because Rika never mentions it verbally, and during all their interactions, she is subdued and lacking in a way to express her emotions properly. And we get everything we know from Toka and the inaction of Rika. But as far as we know, Toka didn't want to lie to Yuta, and it matches up with Rika's own actions. Rika was angry at her mother, and as long as she wasn't over the death of her father, she wouldn't have a civil relationship with her, because a child wouldn't understand why someone would do that, and even if she did, she saw it as unfair to her. I don't think Rika hates her mother. I just think she doesn't want to be around her or have that relationship with her because she's angry. We know that Rika knows her mother well enough to know when to avoid her, whether it was just patterns or a text message or Toka telling her. She still paid attention and avoided her. But on the other side of it, Rika's mother never hated her daughter, obviously. As far as we know, she doesn't even care about the Chuunibyou, she just wants her daughter back. She knows it would have been painful for Rika. She knows that she would need some way to deal with it, and seeing her daughter so lively and having fun with a big group of friends would make her very happy. She just comes to her school hoping that this year it will be different, but obviously it wasn't. It's clear that she would have given Rika a break if they still lived together by how softly she treated a 3-year-old death with her daughter. It was clear to her that her daughter still wasn't over it and she was gonna let her deal with it in her own time. She's obviously hurt by the feelings of her daughter as it was a wish from her husband, but she is still willing to let her find her own support group and deal with it healthily. Sadly, her oldest daughter missed her opportunity to be in that support group.
Talking about tradition that happened in the Luton household around Christmas, we once bought this Lego hand that was really nice. It's important because... Say slow your roll, this ain't your bowl. Keeping a knock now up my pole.
Here we go. It's fucking midnight and I'm doing this. Oh, bullshit. Toka was around 22 when her father died, mentally not fully developed. Rika was 12. There's a 10-year difference between the two of them, and therefore, Toka wasn't allowed to mourn or deal with the emotions with support. Well, that's what she believes. She's too embarrassed to talk to her younger sister about the death of her father. Well, she was by the time it would have been comfortable to talk about it. During her mourning period, she was forced to look after her sister at her own house and put on a brave face so her obviously suffering sister wouldn't have to worry further. She had to grow up. Her role was not one that should have been given to a mourning 22-year-old. However, she wasn't suddenly surprised by the death of her father. She knew that he was going to die. She doesn't really know how Rika felt that day because it was sudden for her. The feelings would have gone beyond just mourning in that moment and would have been anger and confusion too. Then suddenly she is supposed to just accept all of that and deal with it by herself? Toka was too embarrassed to talk feelings with her younger sister and was probably afraid of setting her off down the wrong path by just talking about it. But from Toka's view, Rika suddenly changed and disgraced the idea of her father's death, making it seem like a sick joke. Rika disgraced her grandparents and confused Toka. Of course, someone who was put into that situation of Toka would absolutely hate the idea of Rika's Chuunibyou. She suffered as silently as her sister, but had to look after her so soon too. All of Toka's emotions would have clouded her judgment for someone to play around so close to the death. To Toka, her entire family agreed with her, but she misunderstood her mother. Her mother would have been so saddened by her own daughter hating her, and Toka took that as a sad opinion about Rika's Chuunibyou, saying that Rika was making her mum sad. Toka is a tragic character because she was forced to grow up the minute her dad died. Yet she doesn't understand that her own sister would have trouble dealing with her emotions and would have had an alternative way of dealing with them. And the best part is, she isn't wrong. Chuunibyou wasn't an unhealthy coping mechanism. It was Rika's use of it that was unhealthy. Playing pretend wouldn't have helped. But she was wrong that it was unhealthy, just not wrong that it wouldn't have helped. If she had managed to get past that barrier that she thought was there, and the embarrassment, and became part of the support group, then maybe she would have seen it, and helped her to get past it. But she wasn't there, which led Rika to look for other people to support her. Rika Takanashi's relationship with her boyfriend, Yuta Togashi, is natural. Rika didn't wait until high school just to ask out a guy. She didn't have those kinds of feelings for her boyfriend at the time. She just really liked what he had given her, and luckily enough for her, she managed to play off of him, playing perfectly for his straight man. She perfectly manufactured the situation to make it so that they had interactions early on, so that he bonded with her. She really wanted him as a friend because he had given her a way of expression. She had watched him for 3 years and created fantasies to match him. Her other feelings for him came naturally. Honestly, up until they went to her grandparents' house, she didn't even think that love was an option. Be it because that kind of emotion was too strong for her to think it was a possibility, or that she straight up didn't see it coming. Their natural chemistry, Rika's trust and Yuta's kindness, combined to make a moment so perfect. It started off the feelings for the two of them, and it just needed to be found and understood. I feel like their relationship development was really good. They get the most amount of screen time together, and yet, for the most part, it's just Yuta beginning to understand and enjoy Rika's company. But once Yuta understands her, and therefore has the ability to fall for her character, he does. No stupid explanation, it just happened. But her relationship beyond that harbored unhealthy expectations from him. I mean, he was now obligated to figure out if her life was healthy. It was no longer Rika's issue to solve alone. And she put expectations on him that he really wouldn't have qualified for. She expected him to be a pillar to carry her to the solution. But he wasn't going to be able to do that with their level of communication. She expresses all of her emotions through Chuunibyou, but that kind of conversation would have never translated. At best, it would have came out in the quiet moments the two of them have when they are alone, and Rika doesn't feel like keeping up the Chuunibyou act. But unlucky for them, there wasn't enough time for that situation to happen. Rika isn't in a perfectly healthy state when they started going out, which led the relationship to be unhealthy for the both of them, which led the pair to hurt each other. And I personally believe the events of the anime were the best way they could end up. Not because it was the easiest or the simplest, but it was the least harmful. Him showing up at her grandparents' house, mirroring what he did the first time he went round, and then taking her to the spot of the invisible boundary lines. I think he didn't need to say anything for a reason. She now had a support system, one she had built herself despite her Chuunibyou. A person who saw through the mask and was willing to be there. That support person reversed the roles this time, using her Chuunibyou as something that was the reason she looked for him, and taking her to the place she took him the first time they arrived. When it comes to the two of them, their relationship is incredibly natural for the people in their positions. Neither of the two of them had feelings for the other before that one night, and their feelings only developed from there. And once they got into the relationship, it wasn't healthy until the two of them had their feelings in place, and that's where the show ends. They didn't need to talk about why the relationship was unhealthy because they solved the issue.
なあ、クズハ。
何お兄ちゃん。
Yuta Togashi is a very important part of this anime's success.
普通。
This is because he is a very important character to the story. Duh.
おっしゃ
変なお兄ちゃん。
His role to the anime, being the POV, and the role to the story are intertwined. He is the way we look at the story of Rika Takanashi.
見た。
It is very purposeful that he was the one to be the POV despite it not being his story.
見てみる。
We view Rika at first the same way he does. Chuunibyou is a real thing that happens to real people, and despite us not having a term for it in English except for cringe, we wouldn't exactly understand as a Westerner. But as a brilliantly written POV, Yuta easily makes us understand why we should feel the same way he does. This is shown by him disposing of all his cringe stuff and letting out one last bit of Chuuni before heading back into class. As a POV, we should be feeling the same way he is, and that we do. Even us Westerners and kids that don't know what a Chuuni is yet. And because of this, we have the exact same feelings for the girl that did a proper Chuuni greeting to him on his first day. This is a girl that has no reason to act the way she does, other than that she finds it cool. This idea is pushed into you more by the fact that she will just casually break character, another sign of a great POV. Something that I can fully explain from her POV is misunderstood by our POV and therefore ourselves. And along with him, we learn about Rika Takanashi, the reason she acts the way she does and the reason her family situation is the way it is. And much like him, we get the very sympathetic scene with them home alone for one night. I would like to mention here that there is a moment where Yuta loses POV privileges, and it's after this episode, where Rika has fallen in love and asks for help, because for a moment she had a reason to be in control of her own story. She had no control over her father's death, her mother's work, or her grandparent/sister's behaviour, but she had control on how this relationship could end up. And when Yuta got it back, it was something Rika had no control of. In fact, she wasn't going to affect the situation. There is one difference between the POV and the viewers, and that is the POV can act and we cannot. Yuta wasn't going to act. He was on Rika's side the entire time, only ever having doubts, no true feelings. But while Toku's complaints were fresh in his mind, he ran into the mother of his new girlfriend with a lunchbox. As a POV, Yuta is supposed to be our vessel, but it's not our story, it's not his. We may be able to see, from his point of view, that his actions were justified with the cards he has on the table, but this is Rika's story, and this told her pain perfectly. He chose the wrong action. Our POV of the story perfectly let us relate to the pain of our main character. If that isn't a perfect use of POV, then I don't know what is, honestly. The next episode or two is just as good. We really see the desperation of Yuta as he tries to get his girlfriend to fulfill both dropping Chuunibyou and also being the quick-witted, energetic person she was whilst acting as a Chuuni. But we also get to see the main character's genuine lostness. She doesn't know anymore, because her pillar just ripped his gift away and made her deal with all the issues it was holding back, without any idea of how to ask for help. As far as we know right now, she was running away using fiction, so it wouldn't have affected her that much. The offness of this episode was palpable. She was wrong because she wasn't right. An option to make it seem like it would have been a conversation, to understand her feelings, to realise why she was using Chuunibyou as a coping mechanism, and what he means to her. So it goes to say that when we found out she was gone for good, we were just as surprised as our own point of view. Or would it have been more fitting to say we matched our point of view for surprisedness? And during these scenes, where he is clearly desperate, he shows that he actually loves her and wants her to be happy. And obviously, part of his desperation was riding his best mate's bike to her grandparents' house in the middle of the night. As a POV, not much left of the story really matters to him. But as a POV, he's pretty good. Not only does his existence of a POV make him able to understand why he feels the way he does towards Rika, it also allows us to understand his decisions, however much it goes against our opinions. He allows us to relate to the main character without unnecessary anger towards characters, because any anger we have towards them is purposeful. However, as a POV, he cannot truly understand Rika. The only people who understand her fully is herself and Chuunibyou, and therefore Deko as the representation of Chuunibyou. Yuta's use to get us to understand how stressed out the two of them were in the final stages of the Chuuni-less Rika, and to truly question how we didn't realise she was, is a great way to use POV and its lack of omnipresence. The three unmentioned characters. However it may seem, two of the three are part of the support group that is so important to the arc of Rika Takanashi, and the other is a very important person to Yuta. Yes, Kumin and Nibatani are important too. Kumin much more so, because she is a senpai. Her role in the support group is one to give advice. Most of it being off-screen and implied by her role in the last episode. And to act out her role, she acts as the second eye of the Wicked Lord. Probably to get it into his head better. Not only did it grab his attention, it would likely keep it when she needs to tell him something. Either that or she just wanted to be weird. Her role in Rika's support group was vital because she could genuinely help. She was the only person with seniority over Rika that Rika had in the group, and Kumin acted as such. Nibatani, however, was more like a friend. Nibatani was not one to take advice off. She was clearly trying to make her life more like a shoujo romance manga. Probably because she thought of it as normal. Despite not being a Chuuni anymore, she clearly wanted to be something she was not, and even falling for other stuff that could and should still make her a Chuuni. However, she's still important to the support system because she's a friend. She's a crucial part of making the club a reality, and she's also part of the atmosphere. And despite not having any decent advice to give, she was a catalyst to Rika understanding her feelings and getting a boyfriend. She was never going to be a role model for Rika because she wasn't qualified as such. She was too attached to her Chuunibyou. She was not normal. Trying too hard to become normal made her abnormal. Someone who is normal, however, is the goat Makoto Ishiki, Yuta's confidant. Ishiki is the normal guy. He's the person Yuta has to tie him down. He is an important piece as he is what Yuta wanted at the start. Gay as fuck. And comparing it to what he eventually fell into, it's not much different. Other than people's actions, that's the point. Makoto Ishiki, the GOAT.
Thank you. Okay. The angriest we've been about Chuunibyou? Oh, well, that's easy. Easy, very easy. Well, I was living in, I think, the last house we lived in. Maybe not. Maybe it was the house before. Maybe, hell, it might have been Luton. And I was just looking for shit, and I was scrolling through my recommended page on YouTube. Here it was, a video titled "I've Got to Go Through This Shit Again," and it was with a thumbnail about Chuunibyou. At the time, diehard fan, absolutely diehard. I watched the video, and he starts screaming, overreacting about them not kissing, and that he has to deal with another season of their shit. Incredibly angry about that. Because in my mind, Chuunibyou could do no wrong. It was the perfect thing ever. You couldn't even argue it. It's like so good, you know. Arguably, it was like it was my favorite anime of all time, and back then, you know, favorite and best were pretty much the same words. It's like, yeah, I was quite angry with that. There was another time, when I was making my last video, obviously in my last bedroom. I was writing the script, trying to find pictures, and I came across a blog. The reason I came across it was because I was looking at the title of the images for some reason, and it said something about the last episode being bad, and I fucking hated that and read the whole thing. It was horrible. That's my second most angriest. But the thing about them both is that, well, the second time I could defend it, and I could defend episode 12. Did I use season 2 as part of my defense? Yeah, I did. Shit, tragic, and paddock, all that kind of stuff. But I also used on playing shit now. If I were to debate that right now, I could. I love the show to death, and I would defend episode 12 with my life, even if it means I die. But yeah, I love Chuunibyou, and it has caused a lot of outbursts of mine. But seriously, love it to death. Story isn't the only part you need to talk about when talking about a show's perfectness. And I hated this part whenever we did lit in school, and that's structure. There are multiple things you need to do to make structure a good part of a show. And that is audience investment, intonation with the story, and comprehensiveness. Now, you only need to be comprehensive when you're talking about a show that jumps forward and backwards in time a lot, or jumps perspectives a lot. So that's void for Chuunibyou. Chuunibyou is basically perfectly crafted to keep audience investment at all times. First episode, setting up Rika. Here we go, buddy. You want it? Second episode, setting up Toga. Third episode, setting up Dekamori and Kumin Suyuri. And fourth episode is setting up Nibatani. There you go, you want more? You want more? Yeah. It's boring.
Episode 5 is the plot with Rika having bad grades and the first real quiet moment between Yuta and Rika. Episode 6, Goat Sacrifice. Absolute legend. Legendary performance from the goat. Episode 7 is I can't remember. And episode 8 is Yuta and Rika home alone. Which means episode 7 is Hometown Arc. There we go.
Episode 9 is the school festival. Episode 10 is when they start going out and Rika takes off the eye patch. Episode 11 is Rika, Yuta, and everyone else being depressed. I don't know what that caught me on camera. And episode 12 is getting Rika back and all its glory. The reason this works for audience retention, despite the first 4 episodes being setups, is because they all have different plots and different reasons to be captivating. Rika wants a cat, but Toka's allergic, so Toka chases them down. This involves a tuning fight. It's quite entertaining. Rika wants a club, so she teams up with Kumin and Deko to do it, which involves her trying out different clubs and scaring off potential club members. Probably not. Not only does this get the audience more into the idea of the show now, it gets them more invested into Rika's story and where it's going. Episode 4 is the bait of Yuta going out with Nibatani, and it is funny seeing his bedroom being trashed just randomly.
Each episode all have their own unique feeling and identity. Then the middle is just as important, if not more. It starts off with 2 slice of life-esque episodes to lure you into a false sense of security, but they also have their own meaning to why they are that way. But yeah, it is mostly to show that there is normal in this universe. Not everyone is a Chuuni. Then the next 2 episodes are the ever-important hometown arc. It's important that the maths episode comes in between these, because to get the viewers in a Chuuni frame of mind is to get them in the wrong frame of mind. Just for episodes 7 and 8 to hit them like a truck. Not only does it make the audience more into the idea of the show now, it allows them to be more invested in Rika's story. Having the audience pay more attention to Rika's quiet moments allows them to understand her more. And obviously that includes the ends of episode 8, where the plot of the next 2 episodes has started, which gets the audience invested in that side of the plot, the love side of the plot. The end of the series starts off with an entire episode dedicated to Nibatani trying out shoujo tactics using Rika as a test subject, which obviously ends with a proper shoujo moment where Yuta gets to save Rika from dying. But you know. Yet again, a perfect distraction gets the audience invested in something else when they're cooking up something slightly different, which happens at the end of that episode. But before that... wait, no, shit, well, wrong episode. The next episode... my bad, bro. The next episode is the episode where we get in 2 incredibly gay my bad, bro. 1 incredibly gay moment and a moment between the boys. Rika and Yuta are going out and are preparing for the school festival, which is, obviously, a beautiful date. Then the main plot arrives to punch Yuta in the dick. It sets up the next 2 episodes by having him run into Rika's mum, she gets no other piece of screen time, and having him tell Rika to take off her eye patch. Something that got me angry yet very invested. The episode after that is the depressed one, and Rika runs around depressed, and Yuta runs around depressed, and Deko runs around depressed, and Ishiki runs around depressed. This is obviously the climax, and there's not much to say here, but yeah. Same with the next episode. Yeah, it's a great end, and it's a brilliant end of the story, but not much to say from a structure point of view. But then there was an OVA episode 13, which is shits and giggles. But yeah, it's a 3-act structure, and the beginning, the middle, and the end. Who could have known? And the beginning sets everything up. The middle both distracts the viewer, whilst also giving little, like, character hints to everything. And then the end is the balls to the walls climax, where it begins the romance side of the story and ends the dad part of the story. Sadly, season 2 never lived up to the beautiful piece of art this was. Wait, the plot of each episode needs to be pointed out when talking about something's perfection. Obviously, we spoke about this in the last section, but for this section, I'll pick up 4 episodes to talk about. You don't understand how much that number fucking hurts me, please. It pains my soul. Because going through the entire thing would be a waste of time. For the first episode, of course, I will do the first episode. The plot of that is probably the most important, because it is supposed to sell you on what the series is. And episode 1 does a great job of doing that. Of course, showing that Yuta is throwing away his Chuuni gear and showing Rika show up at random is definitely a good hook to start with. Obviously, it is a comedic. Obviously it is a comedy, so having him miss the train on some bullshit and having him to run to school is a good first gag, great first gag even. Then having him express he wants a normal life, an introduction with the goat, gives you a good look at his wants, what he strives for as a character. Then the greatest introduction scene of all time, where Rika's eye is resonating, with a decent gag of her giving up and just making Rika noises. Just so that he can come with her. I fucking love that joke. I love it so much. My help! Rika noises are fucking amazing. This scene between the two kind of introduced their relationship and how they mostly act for the rest of the season. Then, of course, we have him talking to Ishiki at the end of the day and talking about hanging out with a few of their classmates. Then it's interrupted by Rika being the goat. Obviously interrupting the goat too. And the fact that he has to take her home because she doesn't know her way home, despite getting there fine. Master manipulator Rika Takanashi right here. Might get lost. How long has she lit? She's been following him around for years. Bro. I ain't pixel bar gaming, I can't complain. Then they put all her stuff in her room, because obviously she's moving in. And then they have a quiet moment about his Chuuni year. Obviously the introduction to the entire series, but it has a little bit of everything in it. It has Rika's Chuuni shenanigans, the introduction, her stuff. It has Yuta's straight man actions, Ishiki being the goat, and a bit of Rika's quiet side, which comes out in, I believe, the moment where she asks him if he has a dad, and specifically, if he has a dad, bro. No. Yeah, technically that is what she's asking, but it's not what she asked. She asks, and your dad, in context saying, is your dad around? Because she didn't see him at the time. But also, the quiet moment is when she's outside, and she's talking about his Chuuni stuff, and now she doesn't want to go. Anyway, where am I? As for audience attention, I think it's a great job at selling the idea, because the interactions between the two characters is quite entertaining and funny, but that's not really objective, so I feel like that's all for the people who like that kind of stuff. And obviously the quiet moments, which is a complete contrast to everything else she wants, everything else she has done in the episode. It hints at something below the surface and clearly shows her appreciation for everything he was trying to throw away. So there's triple avenues of investment here. You can go for the comedic side, you can go for the fucking serious side, and then I can't remember what the other one was. I'm not even reading the script, I'm just saying it. But it's quite hard to talk about it from a plot point of view, because it's episode 1. Episode 6, however, does not have that problem. It is the letter episode, the love letter episode. It starts off with Yuta playing Monster Hunter, then everything else is not important. Then the goat comes up to Yuta and asks him about a love letter. He's been debating who it could be from, and then Yuta's just like, it's fake. The boys made it. They're pranking you. But sadly, whilst asking Nibutani about it, he drops the notebook, which has a rating of every single girl in it. Valid, of course. He then takes the blame for the entire thing and shaves his head like a legend. So, what's so important about this? Well, it's a slice of life episode revolving around Makoto Ishiki. Makoto Ishiki is the connection to the real world for Yuta, and this episode's the same way for Rika's story. It's a normal high school behavior, at least what anime said high school behavior is, and the shenanigans of teenage boys and the consequences of them. Hell, even that happens in like secondary schools and sixth form here. It works best at its position of a middle episode before the turning point. Rika's story is about to reach its peak, so we have this episode of normal. It also works well, as I said, as a misdirection to what the next episode's vibe is going to be. The next episode I'm going to talk about is the episode after that episode, so episode 8, which is my favourite episode of the season, not the favourite episode of the anime, which... Don't look at me, explanation point. It starts off where episode 7 left. There is no house there. Rika and Toga are having a fight, and Toga bitch slaps the silly out of Rika. Didn't work. Rika runs away, so Yuta runs with her, and they have a quiet moment at his house after getting her konbini food, because she'd never had it. I wish I could have some. I wish I could have Lawson's fried chicken. Bro, your skin! Fried chicken! This episode is very important. I fucking love it. It is the transition from stressful drama to the love part of the title. A transition like this is important for pacing issues and to not give the viewers whiplash as you realize that they just ignored the implications of last episode. Going from late episode 7 to episode 10 would, like 9 would fucking give someone whiplash, so they needed episode 8. It explores the normal side of Rika while allowing us to understand that she really doesn't want to talk about what went down at that house that night. This plot for the episode is really good because it shows how the characters are, where they are in their arc for the season, all while transitioning and preparing this episode for the next 2 episodes to come. And the final episode to be mentioned is episode 11. Yeah, not episode 12. Episode 1, episode 6, episode 8. Yeah, okay. Episode 11. Yeah, not episode 12. Episode 11's plot is that everyone is sad and confused and doesn't really know what to do. And Rika doesn't know what's right or wrong. Yuta doesn't know how to sort Rika's feelings out. Dekamori doesn't know how to tell Yuta to help him the right way. And everyone else doesn't know how to give the right advice at the present time. Sadly. Kumin the goat, but everyone's the goat. Except Nibatani. She can go kill herself. Bitch ass nigga. That's getting in the video, I know. It's a down episode with a lot of muted colours. This episode is probably one of the better ones. It ends on Deko and Yuta fighting and Rika leaving. Obvious, a bit of tension to end the episode on. But for most of it, it's a showing of how bad Rika is feeling about her life. She has no safety net if all the feelings she's been trying to deal with slowly attack her. Having everyone so confused and sad is a great way to force action in the next episode and makes the viewers feel frustrated that the characters aren't doing the right thing. This makes them just want to watch on. This episode has heavy ties to the plot as it's the second to last episode. It has great ways of captivating the audience and it's just a show of cinematics. It's beautiful. The plot is perfect for the penultimate episode to get them to act. And all of these plots have heavy connotations when in relation to the arc of Rika, but a lot of them do a great job of keeping the audience entertained, even giving the audience a great experience watching, like transitionary episodes, like episode 8. The music and the cinematography are kind of hard for me to comment on. For one, I could show you cases of good cinematography, but that's not really my expertise. And the music neither. Specifically, music is a personal thing. It's not objective, but there is cases in the show where it's done really well. Haiwa no Nichijou ga Ichiban no Shousei, a song that is admittedly used more in Season 2, is a song that is used in quiet moments between the 2 protagonists, but it's not the only song. And every quiet moment between the 2 of them have a similar vibe of song. It helps these moments feel domestic and quiet. Then there are the big over-the-top battle themes that are the cause of Dekamori. They are songs that Deko often hums and play during the Chuunibyou battles. It helps with the vibe of Inspired, as the child was viewing their favourite show. Fucking plagiarising? I don't know, it's not there. They are songs that but then they show off and use a song like the one at the peak of episode 7, one that sounds like wonder, hopefulness, and nostalgia, just to be cut off and echo in your mind as hers is shattered. Toka, dickhead! Wait, no, Toka didn't do that. My bad. It's reality. Wake up to reality. Honestly, it is my favourite moment in the entire series, as it is just shocking. And without the music, it would probably wouldn't even be that far forward in my mind. Talking about the music, I almost forgot about the intro and outro. Sparkling Daydream just comes on at the start of every year and I get fucking goosebumps, fully nostalgic. I love that song. What is there to say other than it's a banger that hints at the story of Chuunibyou? It's just great. However, Inside Identity, it's different. It's an absolute banger. You know what it is to the story. It's just full-on cringe. It's full tuning. There is no meaning other than being edgy for edginess sakes. And I'm all here for it. I love the visuals and the song, obviously. Again, I'm not an analyst of this stuff in particular. I just wanted to point out they're fucking amazing. And with the cinematography, I love the cinematography. I brought it up earlier. The scene with... just fucking play it, this one. And, and this just caught my eye when I was watching it. Obviously, I've been paying more attention to cinematography this year, specifically with KyoAni shows, and I feel bad because 6 months too late, you know? 6 months too late to focus on that. And KyoAni does an insane job, especially post Haruhi It's just every show past Haruhi season 1. It's got good cinematography. We're talking Hyoka, we're talking Tameko's Market, we're specifically Tameko's Love Story, the movie. We're talking about, well, Hyoka's for different reasons. They're just good cinematography, and I trust that this show has that same vibe because, 6 years since Haruhi. I had to bring up Haruhi in this fucking video. I'm fucking insane. Anyway. Love you, Haruhi, by the way. I know you're watching. It's just great, bro. This show's great. I fucking loved it.
Quite hard to support a team when they lose so much. I guess Piston fans will relate. Eagles! Yeah, you can see I thought I were in pride.
I was a junior once. Yeah, it's a very tough time to think about. A lot of times, people would cringe at their junior selves. I get it. Trying to be someone you're not is kind of something everyone goes through, and I definitely was one of them. I guess you could say I'm still a tunie in some ways, but obviously not in the tunie way, but similar. Trying to be someone you're not is a very big part of being a Chuunibyou, and I was trying to be this deep, dark persona, something that relates with Anya Koji from Classroom of the Elite. Or, those dark kind of characters that's supposed to relate to people going through that kind of Chuunibyou. It's I guess it wasn't the same as Yuta's Chuunibyou. Yuta was trying to fight fake creatures, and I was trying to be a dark guy. And yeah, my mate Lex also went through Chuunibyou at the same time, similar kind, because it was intertwined because we were there. It's kind of shown in Chuunibyou that Chuunibyou is intertwined with the people you're around, and yeah, he went through his Chuunibyou. I guess he was trying to be a deep dark persona yet himself, and if we're between me and you, he's still not over his Chuuni phase. But seriously, it's very hard to think about it in the way to say what is a Chuuni, because a Chuuni is very hard to describe. It's never the same for everyone. I love Chuunibyou in that way. It's a very unique experience. Tailored, personalised for you, and I look back and go, yeah, that was cringe, but I had some weird phases. I was emo for a bit, twice in fact. Once because of Chuunibyou, and once because of not real Chuunibyou, Chuunibyou the anime. I wanted to be an edgy loner, We go through these kind of phases in life, and Chuni's just one of them. Right now, I guess my phase is trying to be better. Loads of people are doing that. But Chuunibyou genuinely impacted my life, but not to the point where I noticed that I was going through the same affliction they were going through. I wanted to be that dark guy. Where I live, I'm pretty dark. Pretty sad. Rika Takanashi, a character. She's a very important part of my life. The centre of my favourite story of all time, and I feel like I disrespected her with this. She allowed me to have a retrospective on my moments of mourning and how I dealt with that. But most importantly, she's my favourite. She's fun, interesting, and a curious case. Someone who crafted a whole support system using her coping mechanism and just genuine wit. And she fell in love during the process. She's a loud and extroverted character, but my favourite moments with her are when she's quiet and soft-spoken. Where she is showing way more emotion than she could when embodying what's under the eye patch. Her story goes much further than the boundaries of this show. But this season feels like a full package. She didn't need to shed her Chuunibyou this season because that's not what it's about. It was about love and Chuunibyou and of her delusions. It was about her father, and getting over that one moment in her life. Much like the rest of the story, this didn't need to be shown in the season to tell it. As I mentioned in the plot, every episode is perfect for the story that it was wanting to tell. Any extra moments weren't needed. Chuunibyou is Rika's story. Not the whole thing, but the important parts. And it's not my favourite because it's a tightly written story with metaphors and pure emotion put into it, or because the directing is good, or because the plot of each episode is perfectly crafted, or because the music is so damn good. But because I was a kid, it entertained me and made me warm inside. Rika Takanashi, Yayausukadai. And in fact, all of you, even you Shishimiya, even though this isn't your video, you get to join it. Everything was so simple back then, but now I owe the government taxes. Chuunibyou is perfection. Its plot, its characters, its story, its pacing, its music, its animation, its designs, and everything else I've forgotten as I wrap this up. Yayausukadai. Now let me go play Tetris and cry. A lot of nostalgic tears because it's been a long journey.